Welcome to What Does My Therapist Really Think? We need to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of what mental health professionals face every day. Today, we are talking all about ADHD. I'm Andrea Piazza.
And I'm Katie Roletto.
And today we have an incredible guest. We have Bree Franklin, who is an adult ADHD therapist and executive functioning coach from Florida. Hi, Bree. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So how did you get into working with ADHD? What was your journey to that specialty?
Yeah, man, it's a journey I never thought that I would have been on. So this is not one from, way back when. It's something that has both professional and personal intersection for me. I myself have ADHD, and I did not realize this until I was pretty well into my career and well into adulthood. And so that culminated into just being very fortunate to have some great opportunities, being able to learn more about ADHD in the mental health space. There's a lot of misnomers around ADHD, and so it's a little bit of unlearning and relearning. And again, my specific journey, it was kind of funny, I guess, how it came across when you realize that it's like, it was that moment of, oh, doesn't everyone do that? Which I think a lot of my clients can relate to. And then when we realized, no, not everyone does that. Oh, okay. So it was a sobering moment. And then from then on, I've just been fortunate again to be in various trainings and certifications, and have really just continued to grow in that area and working with that population.
I just would love to set the precedent of maybe we talk about what actually is ADHD. I think it's very popular right now for people to be like, I have it, and self-diagnose. And I guess I think it would be really helpful to set the stage for what is it technically?
Great question. Generally, speaking, again, we can get into the nuances of it, but it's a neurodevelopmental difference, in the brain, and a kind of a difference in wiring is another way to look at it, where the parts of the brain that control executive functioning, otherwise known as the brain's management system, operate differently and have a different relationship with being able to execute on task and activate, and our relationship with our emotions. And a lot of things are quite different for a brain with ADHD versus a brain without. I often compare it to it's a different kind of software operating system, like Apple, Android type of a thing. You have to understand what your brain responds to. Let's say one of the biggest takeaways that can be helpful for folks is that the ADHD brain is wired for interest. It's not wired for importance. When we say that, basically it means that we think our motivation, our ability to work on tasks is not just, oh, this is important to me, or even, oh, it's for my job, or anything like that. That there's something that the ADHD brain kind of needs to respond to, that again those without do not have that. So
Okay, I just want you both to know that I know that this is not something you can do. But by the end of this episode, I am hoping a wink, wink, nod, nod that I do have ADHD. I am hoping to get a diagnosis from this podcast. Okay, so I know you're not supposed to, but just give me a wink, wink, nod, nod at the end of it, because I really do think I have it. I just refuse to go get a diagnosis. Anyway, Andy, you had a question, and I interrupted for selfish reasons.
Well, I hope that this conversation brings you some clarity around that.
Right.
We could always pull up the screener, but I don't know how interesting that would be for the people. And I don't think that would work well for your HIPAA purposes, but we could do it if you really want to.
Dang HIPAA.
So, Bree, you've alluded to, for ADHDers, there are things that are different. We kind of make assumptions about how we all think, experience, see the world, move through the world. And then for our, neurodivergent friends, and specifically our ADHD friends in this conversation, it's just a little bit different. It's not what we might think. What are some ways that people living with ADHD can live in a world that's not built for them? And you can talk from your personal experiences, of course, and then from, what you work with your patients on.
Probably the biggest, I think, game changer for it is getting to a place of self-acceptance and really self-compassion, because that can lead to self-advocacy. But a lot of the work I do, again, personally and professionally, there can be so much shame. I would say that's probably a common denominator I see with ADHDers. I would say it's that famous S word in session. It's the shoulds that come up. No, but I should be able to do it. But okay, I should be able to get up on time. I should be able to do this. I should, and so there's so many things related to identity and core beliefs and emotions. And so getting to a point of saying, hey, it's not about being in denial. It's not about forcing optimism, on this by any means, but to be able to say, if I can understand how my brain works, rather than trying to say, no, I have to tell people all the time, like, the goal here is not to become neurotypical or to become someone without ADHD, but for some people that takes a while to get to because of messaging from society, family, culture, you name it. And so believe it or not, it's not to sound, corny by any means, but that actually is a big shift when you can engage with yourself differently. Again, like stemming from self-awareness. I always say that's your biggest tool. Listen, all the strategies, all the things you can Google and all that sort of stuff, that's fine. But again, if you can understand yourself and then say, okay, what needs to change? How can I resource myself? What is my capacity? Do I need to pause here and reflect? And again, all these things sound simple, truly, but man, I promise you start trying to implement these things and you'll find how not simple it is. So yeah, it's a journey. I tell people, I'm like, don't put all your eggs in this basket. Like this will be the one thing. It's just learning to relate to yourself differently. When they realize, oh yeah, this doesn't work best for my brain. I'm like celebrating with people. I'm like, exactly. It's not about what you're capable of. It's not an intelligence thing. When you know that, your life reflects that. Your environments reflect that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, Brie, what do you see in people, I don't know, like me, that would come around and be like, hey, you might have this. You might have a different way of thinking, a different way that your brain is wired. Are there certain signs that you look for?
Yeah. You're looking for the wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Katie.
Yes.
Here.
Yeah. This is an audio form, so you can wink.
She
wink,
has
nudge,
LA
nudge.
care. Throw her a bone.
I have LA care. I don't know if you know, Brie, but in LA, it's very bad. It's very bad. It's the worst one you could get. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll see what we can do. That's why this specific podcast episode happened, I think. But
Katie's just trying to get diagnosed.
Right. Exactly. All that being said, and again, going back to, okay, well, what is, ADHD? Of course, you have the diagnostic, kind of clarification, the different types, the hyperactive type, the inattentive type, the combined type. One of the things, because I work exclusively with adults, this is where it gets really interesting, because one, ADHD has generally been known as kind of the little boys syndrome, the little, running around in kindergarten, can't stay still sort of thing. We're getting better, I think, as a society to realize that that's not the case, but that's who the studies were on. That's who the research was on. So I'm very fortunate to work with people who are considered maybe later diagnosed, whatever that is for the individual. A lot of times there can be misdiagnosis. Of course, there are what we say comorbidities or co-occurring disorders that can occur alongside ADHD, but sometimes that can be where it gets a little messy. Same thing for someone that says, whether this is I mentioned kind of social media can influence things. They go, oh, I forget my keys sometimes. Yeah, we're not talking about the occasional we all forget, right? ADHD can sometimes be viewed as like a matter of just like personality traits. And that's where I think it's a shame, because it's not that. This is a pervasive pattern. Again, it's the brain is wired differently. It's not just the occasional, oh yeah, I interrupt people sometimes, or, or I can't focus, with something that's boring too. Well, yes, oh, I'd rather be doing this instead too, and it can just become this like reductionist, really oversimplified kind of thing. There's something to be said diagnostically, but then it's also how someone presents, and again, communication. You tend to see it a lot. People that kind of go on and a very elaborative, kind of speech and tangential, like I'm here, many stories, and it's kind of hard to land that plane. Are we seeing is this the nudge that we're talking about?
I would say to go off that. I'm also an ADHD specialist, neurodivergent specialist. I work with autism and ADHD. One of the telltale signs I see in women who are figuring this out in adulthood is oftentimes there's a period around like 12, 14 where things just all of a sudden got way harder. And like you didn't really understand why this friend wasn't talking to you, or didn't understand why you all of a sudden weren't doing as well in school, or you always figured out a different way to get your assignments done. This is the way everyone else seemed to do it, but you know, you're waiting till the last minute until you're super stressed and you super overachieve on that.
Andy.
Are you like having like a moment?
Andy. I'm gonna start crying.
And that's usually what gets people, though. It's
Right.
that's a key developmental period for for disorders around functioning, and the expectations on people go from here to here. And high masking individuals will figure it out, but they're going to do it the hard way, and they're just not going to tell anybody that, like, yeah, it took me 10 hours more and it got done and people think it's really good, so I'm just going to keep doing that. And then that's why we see so much burnout in this group as well, and just totally exhausting our nervous system. I probably should be clear, and I'm sure it's obvious for anybody that's listened to this podcast so far or knows me in real life. I also have ADHD and was diagnosed late in life. I went to a psychiatrist and was like, I think I'm really sad. Like, I think I'm really depressed. And I think I must have said about 18 other things. She's like, I think you have really bad ADHD. And I was like, I do not have ADHD. Like, I got A pluses. Like, I'm the most neurotic overachiever you've ever met. She's like, exactly. That's what I mean.
Wow.
She's like, yeah, you know, can't sit still. You always have to be doing something to make your brain feel calm enough to function. And I was like,
Yeah.
And now I've been retested like 6 or 7 times, because every time you need drugs, they make you do the ADHD Olympics again and just prove how many problems you have.
Yeah, the need for stimulation, it can look like overachievement, and again, due to the stigmas, now it's, oh, but you got this degree, or at work, you're on top of it. But then when you also look at what ADHDers respond to, and things like consequence, when there's built-in structure and forms of accountability, generally speaking, up before college, okay, what happens? Mom, dad, whoever gets notified, if you don't turn something in, built-in accountability, right? Built-in structure. You start here. There's built-in, everyone's doing the same thing. Built-in body doubling. Now, all of a sudden, whether you continue on to college or jobs or whatever it is, poof, it's gone, right? And you don't have that. So many people I work with, that college age population, young adults are just kind of saying, well, what happened? Or it can't be this, or it's just a sadness, and it could be a burnout. Of course, it could be both. There's a lot of connection, but yeah, so many misnomers about it. And that's where it can feel both, relieving, I feel seen, and also a lot of sadness too, because people are grieving to say, wow, how different could my life have been if I had support back then.
Yep, that's the next phase. It's a whole grief cycle. There's anger of like, I told people something was wrong. I said I was having a hard time and they said I just wasn't trying enough, or whatever it was. And then it's exactly what Bree said. What could my life had been if somebody had told me what was wrong and that I needed help earlier? I think one thing with me is like, I realized pretty soon on that like something wasn't right, but like I didn't know how to say it. They stuck me in like all of these extra reading courses because they thought I had dyslexia or something was really, really wrong. And then I would go and do the Lexile, which is this nightmare thing from Florida. Something you had to do on the computer, and it would assess your reading level. And it took me forever. All the other kids would be out of the class. I'd be the only one left in this computer lab with these old Mac computers. And they'd have, somebody sitting there with me that's just like, oh my God, when is this kid going to finish? Like, does she know the alphabet? And then I would score college level, and they'd be so confused. But I only cared to read what was interesting to me. I wasn't going to read something that wasn't Harry Potter, basically. They didn't want to let me check out the Harry Potter books from the library because they're like, her reading level is too low. She needs to go get like a picture book. And my teacher was like, no, that's one of my smartest students. Let her get the book. She'll be fine. And I don't know if she really believed that or was just being nice.
What if you were only good for picture books? What's the harm in letting you have Harry Potter?
Exactly.
I understand it was a time where baby Harry Potter was in high demand and they had to save it. They're saving it for the smart kids?
Yeah, they had illustrations in there. I could have gotten something from it. Anyway.
Sure they do.
But I was like, I just love fantasy books. That's all I'm going to read. They're like, oh, I guess she doesn't need to be in intensive reading. She's just a brat. And that was pretty much how that went. But there was things like that all throughout school. So I was just like, I just have to do things my way. I can't learn math the way you're teaching it. I'm going to go home and I'm going to, figure it out. And then I'll come back and you're not going to know how I did it. But like I got there, right? Fast forward to being, I think like 25. They were like, oh, you have ADHD. And I was like, oh, well, it's too late now. I've already accepted that I do things the way I do them and I can't change it. So, and it's working for me. It had been so reinforced to that point. I was like, I'm fine knowing that I can sprint and get a lot done and then I can't get a lot done for 2 months. Like I just know that's how I work. But I do wonder sometimes if I had gotten diagnosed earlier and had been told, like, the way you work is wrong and it's because of this, you have to change it. If I would have actually, for me, developed more shame and wouldn't have had to accept myself before getting, the acronym to describe me at the time. Bree, what do you see with, like, how when somebody gets their diagnosis, how that plays into their relationship with shame or acceptance?
Both sides of it. Again, one, it's the, wow, my life makes so much sense. Oh, that's what that is. Oh, there are others like me. Oh, there's ways to work with my, there's that like hopefulness certainly that you see, which of course is amazing. And then again, there's a real grieving. There's a real, but again, I've worked with folks that have been diagnosed since childhood as well. But just because you received a diagnosis doesn't mean you understood how to work with it too. It could have just been a label. So for some people, regardless of kind of their diagnosis, because sometimes that's when the shame set in of, oh, you're different, or, oh, the classroom, you got to go here and you got to, or again, especially in certainly 80s, 90s, and obviously before, but even then when we had like limited knowledge, it was, I think, often associated with intellect or ability level, or just a matter of, oh, you're just hyper and things. So yeah, so I think it's both sides of, but I've been doing things this way for so long. How am I expected to change it? And that's where I said this is kind of life's work to a certain degree. It's not about being someone you're not fundamentally. It's just realizing, oh, have you ever considered how your environment plays into this? Have you ever considered how your emotional state and capacity and all these other factors are contributing on your ability to engage your executive functioning, and how emotions play into this, and how maybe it's not purely procrastination, maybe it's actual emotional avoidance. And there are so many layers to this that it can be overwhelming for people. I think it's very unique in that way. It's an area of functioning, right? So every area is affected. We're not talking school, we're not talking work, we're talking your relationships with people, your communication, your conflict style, RSD, the rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and how you getting feedback is going to land differently for you than someone without ADHD. But when you don't know that, you're operating off of this is a character flaw for me. I'm being told I'm too much, I'm too sensitive. If it mattered to you, you would just do it. So it's shows up everywhere.
I remember I was in a relationship, we were living together, and I just have these bursts of times where I'm like, I have to do this thing right now. Yeah. And it might
and you
be
can't
like
stop me, because if you stop me, I'm not going to do it for a year.
Exactly. And, we could be going out the door. I'm like, I just have to clean the floors. I just have to. I just have to reorganize my closet. And all of a sudden I'm taking everything. I'm like, why am I doing this? I have 2 minutes. I'll have to be somewhere. And
that's why. That's why.
Okay, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Wink, wink.
And
because you got 2 minutes to do it.
And my boyfriend at the time, not a great guy, he was like, why do you have to do this? Why do you always have to? And he would get so angry at me about it. And I remember being like, but this is just how I have to function. And it took me a long time to realize, like, that's okay if I organize my time that way. That's totally okay if I organize my time that way, that I do have this superpower that I can get things done. Andy, when I was a kid, because I'm not a night person, I would wake up at 4 a.m. to do assignments right before they were due, just because that's just when things would kick in. This podcast will be done probably an hour before it's supposed to go out, because I will be editing it.
And it'll be amazing. Like, that's
it'll
the
be
thing.
Great.
It's going to be fine.
It's true ADHD
I will
fashion.
lock in. Yes, I'll lock in. Yes, and that's the other thing too. Yeah, this isn't a therapy session for me. Maybe it is, because I have LA care, and I'm holding you all hostage on this call. Just that we were talking about how it affects relationships. That spoke so real to me. And I wonder, how do you tell your clients to approach relationships, knowing when they have that? Andy, her hand raised straight up. Yes.
Bree's gonna have to answer too, because this is about Bree, not me. But
Yeah.
the ADHDer in me has to share my story.
We're literally showing in this immersive experience. Y'all don't realize we're actually playing it out. It's not so much what we're saying. It's what's happening here,
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
The first thing I go over with couples, both autism and ADHD, and sometimes even PTSD, is relationship accommodations. You get accommodations at school, you get them at work, but how do you have that conversation about getting them in your relationship? I have some really great resources that I've pulled from other incredible people and have made, but just about doing kind of a needs assessment, like, this is what I need to function. This is how I am. Can you help me with this? I'm actually really good at this because of my ADHD. Can I help you with that so I don't feel as bad about asking for this? But helping them literally come up with kind of like a written down accommodations plan and going through that practice so that they continue to do it. I always tell my patients, ADHD is a moving target. Like, the things you're good at and struggling with now might not be the same in 2 months. You need to develop the systems and the practices to keep up with that moving target. Like, don't expect it to stay the same. That's when you can really, really get down on yourself. But I like to do accommodations with my patients for their relationship specifically. And then Bree, what about you?
I think a lot of times when it comes up for me, so I'm working with, let's say, individual in a relationship with someone, and the partner doesn't have ADHD. A lot of things that come up are this feeling of, yeah, but I don't want them to be viewed as like my parent. And so a lot of it for me, I've just seen is kind of working to say, well, in a partnership, it's almost like if it wasn't ADHD and we replaced it with something else, would we be having the same conversation? Would you have those same hesitations about like, oh, I don't want it to feel, this imbalance or anything like that? Well, it's support. And, I've told people, when you, again, can understand yourself, then you can communicate that, going back to, advocating for yourself, asking for what you need. So for the partner that passes, the partner with ADHD in the hallway and says, oh, remember we had that dinner with those people tonight or on Friday night or whatever. I'm like, that's not going to be helpful for anyone, because you're telling, just again oh, by the way, remember this. Be able to pause and say, hey, wait a second, you told me something. I might not have even caught it. What you said, can you remind me, I'm going to go sit down, or I'm going to go do this, or again, maybe it needs to be written down somewhere. Some people do the shared calendar thing. That's been pretty, pretty common. But again, it's not about the tools because ADHDers have had that, fallen into that trap. I feel all the time, like, it's such a shame how much money, how much time, how many resources we're like, this is going to be the thing that changes everything.
It's like going to the Container Store and thinking it's going to change your life.
Right. It's a different way of being. It's asking, realizing what helps support you, and connection to self and connection to others is actually a really, really big one. And understanding, your needs and what makes you more susceptible. So if it's, I'm just getting home from work and I'm just throwing the keys anywhere, and I'm hungry and I'm stressed and I'm expected to remember, all these, it just, self-awareness goes a really long way, leading to vulnerability and being able to allow someone to help you in that way. Just like body doubling. I don't need them to be your accountability partner. We're not, doing anything like that, but to say, hey, how different do I feel if someone is in the space with me? How does that affect my motivation levels or my ability to sustain my attention and my focus? So it's, it's little things, but trying these little things when you've gone without it your whole life, and you realize, oh, so maybe what would a little support look like for me? Because I've navigated this literally by myself my entire life without this understanding, for a lot of people without accommodation. So why not try?
Yeah. Another thing I like to do that is almost exactly what you're saying, like building this vulnerability, building this empathy. This is something I like to do kind of at the start of this accommodations work as well, is a cognitive walkthrough. And I do this when somebody doesn't have ADHD too, if they're just coming in as a couple and they're mad at each other. But with the ADHDers, I think it's especially fun. So with ADHD, I tell my patients, you're taking in more information than the average bear. You're taking in more sensory information, more details, but you have the same processor everyone else has. So it can't always handle that much information, but it's cool that you are taking it in. And it might be why you feel like, you're an empath or something. But that can make it really hard to sort of prioritize all that information and know what to act on. And then you get so overwhelmed, you just shut down. Right? Or you go to the next thing that feels good. So something I like to have partners do is they're learning about each other. And oftentimes you find somebody who is neurodivergent because they understand you better. Not always, but there's a reason that like ADHD and autism, pairs tend to go together, two ADHDers or OCD and ADHD, whatever your acronyms are. Anyway, start at the front of the house together, open the door, take 5 steps together. What does one partner notice? What does the other partner notice? Take 5 more steps. What does one partner notice? What does the other partner notice? How different is that? How can you acknowledge, like, wow, I never would have picked up on that. Wow, I didn't know you were feeling that way about so-and-so, or that was important to you or affected you. Okay, now let's go back. What can we do differently? Like, does it make more sense that, she wants you to vacuum once a week? I hate to vacuum. My partner, only person who uses a vacuum in this house. But, does it make more sense why, she has to have food in the fridge all the time, whatever it is. But I think that can be a really good start to that work, and then to building those key systems that then you figure out how to work with and move with as you go through. Bree, we're coming towards the end of our episode here, which is so sad because I think this could be hours and hours of us talking about this.
Especially with 3 gals with ADHD, 2 that are diagnosed, and 1 that is about to be soon. I think that this does warrant like a part 2.
Yeah,
for sure. We would love to have you back to talk more about this. But Andy, did you have a question you wanted to end with?
I was just going to ask for Bree's hot takes on ADHD. Like, what are things you think people should know or that go against the grain,
I would say that there's a lot more to be said around emotion, around how we're treated in childhood even, and kind of experiences there that can impact our relationship with ADHD today. And again, that is a nuanced conversation because there's, resources. I'm not necessarily talking about causal stuff, because there are some conversations about that, and some people find it really helpful to say, oh wow, the role of environment and how that played for me. But when you meet one person with ADHD, it means you've met one person with ADHD. There's a lot of similarities, there's a lot of overlap, but your story is still very relevant to how it shows up for you, and that includes your identity, areas of privilege, times you might have had to have masked, and so you think it shows up, well, I was able to do this when I was 16, I was able to do, or the shame that kind of started with parents, or the role of chaos sometimes. Like, all of these things can, I think, really, really drastically impact the ADHDer for life. And when I say that, I say it to hopefully help people have some more compassion towards themselves, especially in adulthood, because you have had to survive this for so long. And when we can look at different ways our environment, our family, the systems we were a part of contributed to how we view ourselves, yeah, it's understandable that a simple strategy is not going to change everything. That a simple, a program, a calendar, a storage, whatever, is
a planner.
Not going to be, hey, if you use planner.
R.I.P. my planners. R.I.P. so many planners.
Oh, same. I don't even know how much money, I don't even want to get into it. Don't even ask me. It's terrible. But I just think there's always more under the surface, all that to be said. And if you allow yourself to be open to say, oh, wait a second, there might have been, other influences here that have impacted this internalized shame. So no wonder when I read the book, when I listened to the podcast, when I read, did the article, that my life didn't completely change. I know. It's a different way of being.
Yeah.
It's, of course.
That was excellent. It is a different way of being. It is not a deficit. It is just a different way of moving through the world, functioning in the world.
Right.
And we have to accept that and treat ourselves with compassion, move through our lives gently. And that's what's going to be the most success when you have this different way of functioning that is still going to be unique to you. And then what I would add as my hot take is, for those out there who are going, well, everyone has ADHD now. Okay, it's the same as when we used to have really bad telescopes, and then we made better telescopes, and we could see that there were more stars in the sky all of a sudden. It's not that the stars weren't there before, it's that we had better tools for recognizing, understanding, and got more comfortable with having the conversations around it. So it's not that it's not real ADHD because you got diagnosed when TikTok came out. It's that people got better educated on it. People who traditionally weren't seen as having ADHD started talking about their experience, like women, and don't be a hater. Just learn how to help that person.
Yeah. Even ADHD in general, I think there's so much hope. People say, well, it's not a deficit of attention, as we talked about the fixation, on the Harry Potter books. For me, if it's a Harry Potter movie marathon, that's probably the only marathon I could do, as you talked about earlier, the sprint versus the marathon.
Yeah.
ADHDers are sprinters, and so, but again, the ability to research and fixate and be, I mean,
go deep. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. It's not to say, again, there's not real struggles. That's the capacity in which we meet with people. Absolutely. But man, when you start to understand, oh man, there are things that I could do that other people would consider beyond a struggle. They would consider it torture. But for you, it's comes second nature. So that's the hopeful side, I guess, of the journey.
Yeah. It can be more of a disorder of extremes as opposed to never having enough. Sometimes you have way too much, not enough. And that's why women especially, I feel like, come to me with like, I'm too much and not enough at the same time. A whole other episode. But
yes.
That really resonated with me.
It
Andy.
hits hard,
too much
right?
And not enough is...
Yeah, that one cuts deep. But I think...
over my head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's just like everything. That's, the social stuff. There's trauma in that. But
right.
I think, if I could call my version of therapy at this point in my career, what is it? It's I'm too much and not enough at the same time therapy and figuring out how we move through that.
It's going to be Andy's memoir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely me. Yeah. Definitely speaks to my experience. But thank you so much, Bree. I think we have gone to the last possible minute with this, so we'll definitely have to continue this conversation soon. We're going to cue Kenny, who does our music and is a lovely human we know. And then you want to say goodbye, Katie or Bree?
I would just like to say goodbye and thank you so much for my diagnosis, my official ADHD diagnosis. Truly, I cried. Just the first thing that you said about what it was like to be a kid with ADHD. So I just hope that people feel seen and that it's not that bad. It's actually kind of cool. ADHD is cool.
It's cool.
That's my parting thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a specialized brain. You can't be good at everything, but you might be really good at Harry Potter books. I don't know.
Exactly. And when you're around your people, as I think we've showcased in this episode, it changes things. You're not having to mask and say, oh, but I'm struggling with this, I can't get through this paragraph. I can't focus. I can't this. There's just a connection here. And I think that's an amazing part of it too.
Yeah, aww. I do think ADHDers flock together. I think the majority of people at Drea Vita, our company, are ADHDers. I think we need a murder of crows. Like we need an unfocused of ADHDers. Yeah. We need that kind of herd name. So maybe comment on that. Let us know.
Yeah, comment on that.
Come back to part 2 for the
for the reveal. Okay. All right.
Well, thank you so much, Bree. All right.
Thank you.
Kenny, hit it. What Does Your Therapist Really Think is a Drea Media production. Theme song by Kenny Gray. If you want to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, all the socials, go ahead and do it. At Drea Vita, have a question for a future episode? Go ahead and send us a DM. Start your mental health journey today and head to DreaVita.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and send someone this podcast. They might like it. We'll see you next time.